The ancient Sufi masters had this incredibly profound teaching specifically for anyone who identifies as a seeker. Welcome to the Explainer. Let's just dive right into this. You probably recognize that really deep, familiar feeling of standing right at a crossroads in your life. You're just waiting for the fog to lift, waiting for the absolute perfect moment or maybe a sign that tells you exactly which path to take. We get so paralyzed in this quiet space, don't we? Hoping that if we just wait a little bit longer, the right choice is going to effortlessly reveal itself. Well, today, we're going to explore why that wait is actually an illusion, and why waiting for the perfect moment is literally the exact thing keeping you completely stuck.
So, ask yourself honestly right now, have you been waiting for clarity? Think about that major life choice, or maybe a really heavy business decision you've been continually putting off. You might be a bit of an overthinker. We've all been there. Stuck in this endless holding pattern because you genuinely believe you need complete 100% clarity before you can possibly make your move. So you sit back, you analyze, you calculate, and you wait. It's like you're treating your life like a chess game, and you feel like you've got to see 10 moves ahead before you even touch a single piece.
But here's the tough truth of the matter. Clarity, it rarely arrives in advance. You simply cannot think your way into a state of absolute certainty. It's a massive trap of human nature. You see, you can't think your way out of a fog. You actually have to walk through it. Just listen to this incredible paradox from those Sufi teachings. The seer who acts before clarity has fully arrived produces the data that clarity requires. Let that sink in for a second. Waiting actually prevents you from receiving the exact data that creates the clarity you are desperately looking for. It's kind of like trying to solve a giant puzzle without grabbing any new pieces. In life, you only get those new pieces by moving forward and actually interacting with the world around you. Let's zoom out a bit and look at the vast history of human thought to see just how universal this really is. These totally distinct ancient traditions actually converged on this exact same truth. In Era 1, the Stoics taught this as absolutely essential for living a resilient life. Moving to Era 2, Buddhist teachings on right effort included this very mechanism, taking action without being totally attached to perfect foresight. And in Era 3, the Confucian masters formalized it. Across completely different cultures and timelines, the greatest minds in history hit the nail on the head and completely converged on this one transformative realization. Let's look at how this builds specifically on that Confucian wisdom. They taught that when your exact circumstances remain totally clouded, you don't just sit down and wait for the clouds to part. Instead, you act from your core principles. You move forward based on your foundational values. So, even when you absolutely cannot see the final destination, your principles dictate the integrity of your very next step. The action itself becomes your beacon. All of this brings us to a crucial turning point, something we can call the law of movement. It is the undeniable principle that action must precede clarity. This is really the philosophical fulcrum of everything we are breaking down in this explainer today. You have to boldly step into the unknown in order to actually make the unknown known. Honestly, it's the only way the universe can even give you feedback.
So how do we take this incredibly ancient, esoteric wisdom and actually use it in our modern, fast-paced, and kind of chaotic lives? Well, these traditions eventually evolved into a stark, highly practical framework designed to literally force us out of our heads and back into reality. And that brings us to a specific number, 24. This represents the contemporary adaptation of these teachings. We just call it the 24-hour rule.
Here is exactly how you apply this when you find yourself trapped. Step 1. You get stuck on a specific decision. You recognize that familiar feeling of paralysis. Step 2. You must take a single action within 24 hours. The clock starts ticking the very second you realize you're stuck. And step 3, that action generates new data. Within one single day, you just have to do something, literally anything, that interacts with the physical world to bounce a signal back to you.
Now there is a super vital distinction to make here. The right action versus a real action. This right here is exactly where so many seekers get totally tripped up. The action you take within those 24 hours, it doesn't need to be the right action. You've got to let go of that heavy pressure of perfection. It simply needs to be a real action in the physical world. It doesn't have to be some flawless, beautifully formatted business plan. It just needs to be a messy first draft scribbled on a notepad, or an email sent, or a difficult conversation initiated. Real action produces real data, and real data is literally the only thing that dispels the fog.
To give you a tangible way to initiate your very first real action today, we set up a really straightforward prompt. Type the word engine in the comments to access the workbook for this explainer. Just by physically typing out that word, you are consciously shifting from being a passive consumer of information into an active participant in your own life. You are literally starting the engine of your own momentum.
Let's just pause for a moment. Have you been waiting for clarity that hasn't arrived? Take a breath and think about it. If you're sitting there nodding right now, if you realize deep down that the fog just hasn't magically cleared, despite all your patient waiting and endless analyzing, then you are exactly the kind of person this is for, because the waiting ends today.
So make your immediate next step commenting engine. Let this be your 24-hour rule starting right now. Let it be the real action that generates your very first piece of new data and finally unlocks that door to the clarity you've been seeking for so long.
The ancient masters, they knew this centuries ago, and now you possess the exact same understanding. By taking action, we construct the clarity we require to move forward. So ask yourself, what is the one real action you're going to take today? This is our human blueprint.